It's good to see y'all. John Kormanik, John R. Kormanik Coaching. Today we're going to talk about a spectrum, anxiety to authority, and how to recalibrate founder presence, managing partner presence, the presence of the person who is the leader of the law firm, and how to recalibrate that to enable your team and your firm to achieve the goals that you wanted to achieve and to allow you to achieve the goals that you want to achieve as well. As always, 25 minutes. I'm just back from the beach, so I'm super stoked. Let's get to it. So, how do you show up, right? That's, if I could say anything, that is the key to how you're going to achieve the success that you want to achieve. Does it rely on tactics? Sure. Does it rely on processes? Sure. Yes. But that is 20%. Those tactics, those processes, those standards, those are 20% of what success means. The other 80% is how you show up, right? And so it's a presence issue. If your firm is not where you want it to be, if you've got big ideas about where you want your firm to go and you're not getting there, or if you feel like you're stuck, your team feels like it's stuck, you have trouble recruiting, you have issues with retaining top talent, it is a presence issue. It's rarely only tactics or strategy. And presence is an energy state. It's not your personality, right? Let's be clear. It is not your personality that drives how you show up, although that contributes to it for sure. The thing about presence is it can be chosen. Your presence can be chosen. The other thing is that your team, your clients, your referral partners constantly calibrate their view of you. They are constantly looking at you and evaluating. That's what we do as human beings. We evaluate whether someone is a friend or a foe, whether they are a threat or a safe place, whether they are going to be supportive or an obstacle. Human beings are constantly, almost minute by minute, calculating how the person across from them is going to interact with their world. And so everyone in your orbit is constantly recalibrating their view of you. That's so important to remember. It's not a static thing. It is changeable over time. And as I tell people, you can say one thing and show up quite differently, and people will not believe what you say. They believe what they see. As a parent of now an adult, well, she'd be offended if she heard me say that. As a grown, well, she might be offended by that too. As a parent, I was constantly mindful of what I said and how I showed up, because I knew that our daughter Allie would pay more attention to what she saw than what it is that she heard, right? I think the studies show that 80% of the information that we take in as human beings is visual. And so, of course, we're going to lean into the visual part. So presence is an energy state. And let's remember what energy is. It's not enthusiasm. Enthusiasm can be part of it. But energy is your attitudes, perceptions, and beliefs. How are you showing up in the moment? Last month, we talked about founder physics, right? We talked about this friction, drag, and mass, the forces that can stall velocity. Or if we reduce friction, we reduce drag, and we increase mass, it accelerates firm velocity and personal velocity. Now, those forces don't just stay in the abstract, right? They're not just these theoretical concepts. They show up in your attitudes, perceptions, and beliefs. They show up in your energy, right? And so it's really, I keep on saying this. This is the core. This is the core of my coaching. There are many coaches out there, and I urge you to find the right one for you. Many of them are business development coaches. Many of them are systems coaches. Many of them are all these financial coaches. You can have all these different types of coaches. My coaching is all about the human being. Who are you? Who are you being in the moment? And how do you want to evolve so that you can achieve what you want to achieve? So the spectrum of what we're talking about, anxiety spectrum to the achievement spectrum, right, is all about where the physics become visible to you if you're paying attention and to those around you, even if you're not paying attention. Even if you're not intentional in how you're showing up, people see it, right? That may be an obvious statement, but people see how you're dealing with your attitudes, perceptions, and beliefs. They see that. And so along the anxiety to authority spectrum, they're going to see whether or not friction, drag, and mass are showing up as catabolic energy for you, as the fight or flight, as coping or settling. They're going to see that. Or you're showing up in this abundant place. You're showing up broadly with a big vision. People will see that. So let's talk about the spectrum. Anxiety to authority, right? Anxiety, if we think about anxiety on the far left, it is a place of smallness, I think. And as we move to the right, I hope I'm getting the directions right. If not, the graphic is on the screen in front of you. I'm just looking at it the way I'm looking at it. I think I'm getting it right. Authority is to the right of the spectrum. It is big. It is visionary. It is calm. It is, oh gosh, I'm taken back to a story when I was a respiratory therapist. I was a registered respiratory therapist before I went to law school, before I practiced in the Capitol arena defending people accused of murder and charged with death penalty or white collar crime and leading my law firm. I was a respiratory therapist and I worked in trauma. And it is kind of like The Pit or any other show that you might see on TV. It was like that. And there would be people come in and you could, depending on who the trauma doc was, things operated quite differently. Did they operate from a place of force and friction, or did they operate from a place of calm and team? Things worked quite differently depending on who was there. Same thing in my law practice. How I showed up really affected the team or the jury or the judge or my family. And how you show up will affect those around you. So anxiety to authority, right? That's what we're talking about here today. And it's not a personality type. It's a position you occupy differently by day, by meeting, by client, right? It is how you show up. You might be great and having a good day with your staff, and you might not show up quite well for your family. Or you might show up really well for a client and then or take it out on staff or act differently with staff, right? So it's not a static thing. It is something to always be mindful of. It's not a personality type. It's a position you occupy differently by day, by meeting, and by client. Anxiety, the extreme left of the spectrum. It's a place of reactive decisions. It's a place of over-involvement. You are the bottleneck. It's a place of permanent urgency. It's going from one fire to another fire to another fire. It is operating constantly. If we're talking about the Eisenhower matrix, it's operating constantly in quadrant 1, which is urgent and important. It is constantly being in that space. The cost. There are many costs. Let's talk about 3, 2 that are on the screen and 1 that is not. The first cost is your team lacks ownership. If you are constantly in a reactive mode, and that necessarily means you are over-involved. You must be over-involved if you are reactive. The two go together. If you're constantly in that space because of permanent urgency, whether indeed it is urgent or you've created a story that it is urgent, your team lacks ownership because they can't own it, because you are in the middle of it. You are at the hub of the wheel, right? And so everything has to flow through you. There is no ownership. Your people are constantly operating from a stress frame. This is really important. If you are stressed, your people are stressed. Period. Full stop. End of story. If you are stressed, your people are stressed. So if you're operating from this place of anxiety, and it will show up in different ways, but if you're operating from this place of anxiety, your team sees it and they act accordingly. And that accordingly is from a stress frame, it could be from a freeze. I am going to freeze because I am afraid of making a mistake. This is your team speaking, or you, quite frankly, afraid of making a mistake, so I'm going to freeze. That's level 1, right? We freeze. Level 2 is I win. I don't care about you. I don't care if you win or lose, whatever, but I'm going to win. And when your team thinks like that, they don't share data. They don't share praise. It's not really a team atmosphere. It's more of a bunch of individual contributors acting or under the guise of a team. And the third cost that's not on the slide is you and your stress level and your tendency towards burnout or not burnout, right? That's the third thing that is a cost. So anxiety, the extreme left-hand side of the spectrum, reactive decisions, over-involvement, permanent urgency, whether it's actual urgency or it's urgency that you have created. Authority. Let's talk about the other end of the spectrum. It's composure under pressure. I mentioned respiratory therapy, and I'm going to talk about a client in a moment, a coaching client that I have, a lawyer, a founder, who's now a leader of their firm, and they have grown it from a solo. We're going to talk about that in a second. But composure under pressure was, quite frankly, and quite honestly, life or death when I worked in the trauma unit. If you were not composed, things went wrong. When you were composed, things went quite smoothly. So authority is composure under pressure. It is responding and not reacting, right? Viktor Frankl says the key is the space between stimulus and response. That's the key. When we have an external stimulus, we create a little bit of space. We are much more likely to be on the authority end of the spectrum because when we create space to think, it's really hard to be in fight or flight because we're thinking, and fight or flight is not a place for thinking. Our prefrontal cortex disengages when we're in fight or flight. So if we're thinking, we're not in fight or flight. And then for authority, delegates from trust, not overwhelm, right? Trust in your team is critical. Delegating from overwhelm is more like abdication, not delegation, right? It is this thing that, oh, there's too much on my desk. I need to give this away. I need to give this away. I need to give this away. That's not a place to be. It doesn't really support your team. And so when you delegate from trust, oh, I want to give this away. I want to give this to Sally or to Sam so that they can grow. I want them to be challenged. When we're in that space, it's a different kind of delegation. The benefits. It's a rim that runs without excess involvement. So as if it's a wheel, right? It runs without your excess involvement. It's a firm that runs without you. And it's the beginning of operational sovereignty, right? Until you operate from an authority space on the spectrum, your firm's not going to be able to run without you. It just won't. That is the hard truth. So here we are. I've already talked a little bit about the energy leadership application to the spectrum. This is a slide that talks about it a little bit more, right? Anxiety. The anxiety end of the spectrum, that left-hand side, is levels 1, 2, and 3. It is a victim level, which means you are frozen. It is a conflict level, which means you are fighting, or it is a coping level, which means responsibility without agency, right? It is responsibility without agency. And that is that's a fraught place. Level 4 is an appropriate level 4, a healthy level 4, a level 4 that includes you in the service aspect, is the pivot point of the spectrum. If you operate at level 4 and you include yourself, you are golden. Well, you're not golden. You're good, right? You're good. You won't necessarily get to great, but you are good. You can operate very effectively in that space. Where we want to continue to strive to be is that authority space, right? Level 5 is a level of win-win. It's a level of opportunity. Level 6 is a level of wisdom or of game design. I talk about level 6 as game design, and here's why I speak about it that way. Level 6 to me is we all play the game, we all win or we don't play the game. And you, as the founder, as the managing partner of the law firm, get to design the game. It is your game to play. And if you borrow from Simon Sinek, which I do quite often, it is an infinite game. How do you continually improve to play an infinite game? So that's level 6. We all win or we don't play the game, and you are the game designer. Level 7 is a level of synthesis, which means that for me, level 7 is I get to look at how my team is doing, what the situation calls for, what an elite leader would do, and I show up that way. Regardless of what my ordinary or normal reaction would be, my unthinking, unintentional reaction, level 7 is I get to choose. I choose how I'm going to show up. Where do most attorneys land? Without doing the work, they land nowhere. And here's what I mean. Most founders and managing partners tend towards the anxiety side of the spectrum. Number one, because as I mentioned in this slide, responsibility, that level 4, that must include you. That must include you. If it doesn't include you, it's not really level 4, it's more like level 2. So most founders and managing partners tend toward the anxiety side of the spectrum. It's a feature, not a bug. Your legal training rewards hypervigilance and risk aversion. It rewards that. That's how you were trained. You were trained to spot risk and avoid it. Anxiety is motivating, right? Fight or flight, we want to get to a safe space. That is a motivating thing. And it may have worked in the past. That fight or flight, that hunger, right? You hear about it out there in the world, right? You got to be hungry. Well, yeah, sure. And hunger enough is not it, right? It's not operating by hunger or because of hunger is operating because of fear, and fear is exhausting, and human beings were not meant to live that way, number one. Number two, you will not operate at your optimal level when you're in that space all the time. It worked in the past. It may have gotten you from a solo to now your law firm in the 3 million to 5 million range, right? Or 7 million. It may have gotten you to there. It's worked in the past, and that's why we think it will continue to work. It won't. It won't continue to work. You must be someone different. Now it's a new phase. And that operating from the anxiety part of the spectrum is the limit. It's the limit. It keeps you stuck. So what do? We recalibrate. We choose a different lens to look at situations through. We may start with one type of situation, get really good at that, and then move to another type of situation. We may do that, and that's okay because it's more than okay. It's appropriate because that's where growth comes from, right? You can't eat it all at the same time. You can't get from here to there with a leap. You must take steps to get there. Will there be exponential change? Yeah, sure. But you can't go from 0 to 100 in one leap. Remember, this recalibration is not a personality overhaul. You're not broken. You're not broken. You're great. You are required to evolve. It's not a personality overhaul. It's a repeatable catch and shift practice. Start small. Begin small. I'll borrow from The One Thing, Gary Keller's book. Oftentimes we think starting small is actually the 18th step. It's not the 18th step. Really think about starting small. And here's how you can start small. Be aware of your energy. How am I feeling right now, right? Interoception. What's going on in my body? Because what's going on in your body is going to tell you how you're thinking, and how you're thinking drives whether you are on the anxiety spectrum or the authority part of the spectrum. So assess yourself. How am I doing before this meeting, before this client meeting, before this hearing? Am I in a place where I'm optimizing for my performance? And the second thing to do is to set internal goals. What is my goal? And it's really important when I talk about internal goals, I am talking about goals that don't rely on anyone else. They didn't listen to me. That's not an internal goal. An internal goal is, let's take a conversation with a team member. I want to be calm. I want to be clear. And I want to feel good on the other side. Those are internal goals. So awareness of your energy and your internal goals, and act from a higher energy level, and to satisfy your internal goals, not for some external purpose. So I told you I was going to talk about a client. I had a client used to show up very level 3, which is coping. And through our work together, they started to show up differently. And how they showed up differently was to include themselves and make things win-win. So that level 5, they started in the win-win space. And by moving from just coping to win-win, the conversations that they had with their team members were real, right? They weren't, okay, yeah, you're doing great. And then my client would walk away and think, oh, what am I doing here, right? Why did I say that? Things are not great. They are suboptimal, and I want to optimize them. And so they shifted because they were aware of how they were showing up. They would take notes. Oh, I'm feeling this right now. How do I change it? And then they would set internal goals for each meeting that they had with a team member on their leadership team. They would set internal goals, whether it was individual leadership team members or the leadership team as a whole. They would set internal goals. They performed better. The team performed better. The team's ownership over things increased. And shocking, but not really shocking, their revenue increased over time, right? Because of how they changed. They moved to the authority end of the spectrum, not the anxiety end of the spectrum. The firm mirrors the leader. If you have a new mindset, you adopt a new mindset, you're going to get new results. You can't coach the team into authority while you're operating from anxiety. It's not possible. Again, people will listen to what you say and they will watch what you do, and they will always, always, always believe what you're doing, not what you're saying if there's a misalignment. Recalibrating your presence is the highest, leverage move available. Sorry for the typo. The highest leverage move available. And it changes the firm before any process or system could. Remember, processes and systems are about 20% of success. 80% is you and how you're showing up. If you're in the anxiety space, it doesn't matter what process or system you have. It may create incremental change, but there will be a lot of 2 steps forward, 1 step back, another step back, another step back. It's not consistent. So my work for you, where are you on the anxiety to authority spectrum? Just think about that. And it will depend on the situation. It will depend on the thing that you're doing. Think about where you are more one than the other, depending on the category of activity. That's the work. So what's next? I work with a small select number of founders and managing partners one-on-one. I only work one-on-one. If what I talked about today landed, go to my website and subscribe to my newsletter. If you're ready for a serious conversation, to go deeper, you are ready to do the work, reach out to me to explore whether we are right for each other. Thanks for being here. Always great to see you. Take care, be well, and I'll see you next month.